So welcome to Dorking's famous caves, and word does get about. We do get people from all over the country come down here to visit the caves. We're in the Green Sand Way. Green Sand Way runs all the way through Dorking. It's marked, it's a footpath, it's a walkway, and this is carved out of green sand. And I will tell you a little bit more about the makeup of green sand and what else is in there when we get down to the end of this gallery here. But as you can see, this hasn't been blasted with dynamite or anything like that. This has actually been dug by hand, and you can see the pickaxe marks and the tool marks on the ceiling and down the walls. And certainly this gallery here, and I'll talk about it now, normally you'll wait till at the far end. This gallery here is almost dug with almost like a template because it's very regular. However, you'll notice that one side is very straight down, and then on this side here you've got an extra bit that's been dug out, and I'll talk about what the theory of why that's been done when we get down the other end at the board there. Most of the tunnels are like this. However, there's a couple of additions that have obviously been added to by a local Bob the Builder. They're certainly not as regular as these. Now in Dorking we have a number of tunnels that we're aware of. Some we get told about with local people coming down here, and they'll all of a sudden spring on us, oh yes, I've got a tunnel runs underneath my house or something like that. There's a couple of well-known ones. One is in the High Street, the big Sainsbury's. On the opposite side of the road is a health food shop. That health food shop used to be called the Wheatsheaf Public House, and there is a number of tunnels on different layers underneath the Wheatsheaf, some of which extend underneath the High Street, underneath the road, because the agreement used to be that you could dig down underneath your house. If you wanted to extend your house, why would you go up or out? We can dig down easily with this green sand. That was the agreement. You could go up to halfway across the road. So one of our original guys, Professor Selly, always used to say he would never drive an HGV up Dorking High Street because he was always afraid that it might collapse. And we have had collapses certainly in South Street, further up the road. And when the council come along, they try and plug the hole, and the stuff that they're plugging it with just keep going and going and going. So again, it's another tunnel. Interestingly, in one of the layers of the tunnels underneath the Wheatsheaf, they have got very similar to down here. They've got these brick structures called bins. We refer to them as bins, and they're for storage of wine and beer. And underneath the Wheatsheaf is very similar. One of the layers, at the side of one of the bins, is another little entranceway that has been carved out. And if you climb through that entranceway, it takes you into another little void. Within that void there is the remains of a cockfighting pit. So when that activity very, very much went underground, that's where it was. The other one we know about is in West Street. There was an antique shop called Christique, which I have noticed they've emptied now. What it's going to become. That used to be called the Rose and Crown, another Dorking pub. It wasn't the best of pubs, it wasn't the most salubrious of pubs, and there is a tunnel that runs from Christique underneath the road, and it pops up in the restaurant now opposite, which is called Aroma. Now we're told that Aroma, and this is a story we don't tell to the cubs and the guides that come and visit, Aroma apparently used to be the local house of ill repute. So it was possible for someone to go into the Rose and Crown public house, disappear in the tunnel, and then later on reappear in the Rose and Crown, and no one would have known anything different. It's a great story, we hope it's true. So today we're going to take you through actually 4 periods of time. The first period being the makeup of these caves, and the fact that probably about 150 million years ago Dorking was underneath the sea. We're then going to come forward and we're going to show you 17th century well shafts. Sorry, let's go back. So we've then got medieval times. Now we call them medieval because we've got 3 well shafts that the original tunnels that were dug in the 17th century, mid 1600s, actually cut through the medieval well shafts. So we know the well shafts were here first, then the original tunnels were dug, and then there was additional tunnels like this one, a good example, Victorian tunnels later on. So those 3 periods after the actual makeup of the caves themselves. We're going to go down this way first. There's a couple of steps, one just here painted yellow and another one about halfway along, a little bit steeper. Just be careful of those. Have a look on the walls, there's lots of names, there's lots of dates. About halfway down, I'll point them out, there's some tally marks where clearly items were taken from the tunnels and placed in here. These bins, these brick bins, and as you can see they're marked A, bin B, etc, etc, etc. There are 42 of them down here in the caves, and each one was said to hold anywhere between 600 to 800 bottles. All of the bottles we've got down here aren't original. They've been given to us to display how we think they would have been. However, it is documented in the mid 1600s by a chap called John Aubrey, who was a historian, to say that in Dorking there was a plentiful supply of cherries, wild cherries, and they used to make cherry wine, the quality of which was very good. And he also said that there was no better place to store this cherry wine than in the sandy caves of Dorking because of the temperature. The temperature never varies, it is always 14 degrees down here. So follow me down this this tunnel here. On this step here. On your left, as you come down, you'll see some old dates, 1818, 1815, around the time of the Battle of Waterloo. You'll see the initials WC. That doesn't mean that this bin, clearly, we've used a WC. But if you look lower down, you'll see it repeated, WC. But if you actually follow that name, it says W. Cheeseman. Now, William Cheeseman was one of the local greengrocers and wine merchants in Dorking. So undoubtedly he probably used this to store some of his produce. On your right hand side here, you'll see some evidence of some tally marks. And these are early ones, because what we do now when we're doing tally marks is we'll do 4 downward strokes and then 1 across, and then you can count in 5. I noticed this the other day. It's quite a nice face up there that's been drawn, and it's quite old. They say that when someone's scratched in the wall, and you'll see some more recent ones, when someone's scratched in the wall, either their name or a character or something like that, it's bright yellow. You can see that it's quite recent. But when it's dark like this, where it's been done, they say that it's between about 15 and 20 years to form that dark patina around any marks. So lots and lots of other names and dates as you go down, and you will notice when we go all the way down to the bottom, there is a lot more names and a lot more dates. If you go into the bins for us, please, and pretend you're a bottle of wine. And I did say to you that I'd talk a little bit more about the makeup of the tunnels. This is, as I said earlier, green sand, and admittedly it doesn't look very green. It just looks like normal sand. However, This green sand contains a mineral. That mineral is called glauconite. Glauconite is green, and if you look at it under a microscope, you can actually see the tiny little grains of green mineral. Now, when it's dug and it's formed like this, it acts very much like a jigsaw, and it becomes very strong. So what you won't see down here is like pit props or big beams holding the roof up, because it is very solid. The tunnels reopened in 2015 after a lot of renovation to the large Waitrose opposite, and they were a little bit concerned about movement because they've dug down and made multi-layer car park. Very concerned about movement of the cave, so we weren't allowed to be in here whilst that work was going on. However, they did a survey before the works and another survey afterwards, and it was absolutely solid down here. The other thing that you'll see in the sand is these dark marks here. Look, they look like stains. It's actually another rock called limonite or ironstone. Buckland Church, if you know it, on the A25 going between Dorking and Reigate, is primarily built from ironstone. Now, when they carve it into big blocks to build, they call it carstone, and they use it as builders blocks. When they form it into small cubes, they refer to it as gallatin, and they decorate the windows and doors of cottages with it. The reason being is that it stops witches coming into your house, apparently. And if you owned an old cottage in somewhere like Newdigate, Cape, or one of the villages around Westcott, if you didn't have it around your door, if you lifted your concrete doorstep that was put down as the house was built, you would find either a metal tool or a knife to do exactly the same. It stops witches coming into your house. It doesn't work on mother-in-laws, I've tried it. So the other name, so we've got W. Cheeseman, William Cheeseman, greengrocer in Dorking town. The other name we've got quite a lot down here is, as you see on here, the initials GCK, and then you've got WK. Now the K is for a family called Kinghams. Now Kinghams owned some of the shops in Dorking, and they were also a wine merchant in the town as well, and undoubtedly what they would have probably done, hence the big cage door on these tunnels, is they would have stored wine and beer down here, and they would have rented it from the council. Originally the tunnels were privately owned, they were privately dug, privately owned, and then at some point they were handed over to the local Dorking council. And Mole Valley Council actually owns them now and allows Dorking Museum to run tours down here. Now, this end that we've come to, we refer to as the Naughty Boys entrance, sorry. It is called the Naughty Boys entrance because it's linked with the public toilet that is outside. Now, it's not the Halloween tour, so when you do put your head through this hole in a minute, nothing else will happen. But if you look to the right, and you can probably see it now, if you look to the right, there is a bricked up hole in the wall. About 1960, early 1960s, what used to be out there, it's quite a modern toilet now, but what used to be out there was very much what they referred to as a bog standard public toilet. That was being demolished by the council. The council came along, they were demolishing it Friday afternoon and accidentally broke through the wall. Thinking, right, well, we're going to have to repair that, but it is Friday afternoon and we do work for the council. It's about 12:30, it's nearly time to knock off. So they thought, right, put a tarpaulin across it and we'll do it on Monday morning. So they left it over the weekend. Now, over the weekend, some naughty boys, hence the name of the area down here, removed the tarpaulin, and lo and behold, looks inside, and this in the 1960s was very, very much still in use, so it was full of wine and beer and produce. So they decided to come in and fill their pockets to the fullest extent, and disappear off down to Meadowbank, which is our local park down just off the high street, and they were found sometime later in a little bit of a drunken state and taken home. And we tell this story because it's a story that all of the cave tour guides have told for years and years. However, there was a tour going on one day and this story was told, and at the back of the group a hand went up and this gentleman said, "And that's a true story." And I think everyone looked and thought, clearly one of the naughty boys, and he said, "Actually, I was a police officer at the time and I got sent up here because we heard a report of some kids stealing some wine from a place, and he climbed in and he did the entire cave system with nothing but a petrol lighter for his light." That was before emergency lighting. He didn't have a torch with him. It was many years later that Surrey police used to issue us torches, and even then they were a bit like candles. Apparently it's a true story. So have a look there, have a look at the bricked up hole. There's a slope that goes up in front of you that looks like it might have been intended to break surface. It doesn't go anywhere. When you look to the left, that is where we will be going in a short while, and that is where two of the well shafts are. So you'll recognise it when we go all the way round there and we look back. But if you have a quick look through there, and then we're going to retrace our steps back to where we first started.
We must have had a really good jolly then. Had a whole pick of down here. Very naughty indeed.
I mean, if you're thinking that there's 600 to 800 bottles in each of these bins, 42 bins, you're looking 28, 30,000 bottles down here at any one time. So, yeah, great place for a Christmas party.
That's exactly. So were these carved in almost as to say, this is the family that...
Yes,
it's almost
and what I'll do as we go back through our, what we call it, our office, where we dump all our bags and everything, keep the hats, there are some photographs of the Kingham shops in Dorking, which I'll show you.
So we're not quite low, are we? How below the surface are we now?
Well, all we've done is actually come down a little bit of a slope behind the War Memorial, and then we've continued on.
Yeah.
So we're not actually that low at the moment. Mind the step, folks, just here.
Would you like to go back later on and take some photographs?
Yeah, that's
Is that
fine.
right?
I tend to blow out the things as you've left the gallery.
Yeah.
Oh,
And I
okay.
want to take them
Wanna take
as
some?
you're
Yeah, if you want to take some now,
Yeah,
it's,
okay,
it's
thank you,
probably
yeah.
better.
Take some pictures now because they light the candles after we've gone through that section.
So effectively, I mean, if you know the high street at all, this is where Sainsbury's is now, the big shop. And then, as you can see, this shop here is Kingham's,
Yeah,
advertised as wine merchants.
yeah.
This strange shaped tunnel here. And as I said when we were down at the other end, talking about the shape of this tunnel in particular, being an unusual shape, there are many theories, some of which are completely outlandish, but the two that I probably like to go with is one based on this photograph, this old photograph up here, where you can see that there were not only bottles stacked on racks down here, but there are also barrels. And potentially, if they bought barrels along here, maybe they just needed the extra width at the bottom to be able to roll those barrels along. This little piece just here, there is quite clearly brick shelves that have been built in there. You know, over the years, people have thrown sand spoil in there and lots of broken bottles. Some of the bits we've got, just be careful with the tops of them. The biggest one I've found, and don't tell anyone, but the biggest one I found, I had to climb up there, was this one, and even that one's missing the top. But I mean, these are hand blown bottles, or the remains of them, and they're dated to around 1760.
That's weighty.
And if you feel the weight of them, you feel the weight, imagine the entire bottle plus the contents would have been extremely heavy. Now what they used to contain, I don't know whether that was wine or whether it was beer, but lots and lots of that down here. So looking at the board, top left picture, we've got South Street, where we are now. At the time, clearly at the time that it was being widened, because obviously prior to health and safety, you've got the man standing on the top of the building demolishing it from the top downwards. Probably won't be allowed now. So after it was widened, you've got this picture here, which still shows the bandstand just there, which was taken down in '63. The Dorking cock, the famous Dorking cock, the golden one that was on the top of the bandstand, is actually down at Dorking Museum. But you can see the war memorial now and some of the houses above. This building here used to be the Dorking lockup. So before the police station in Moores Road was built, this is where you would be put overnight. And this stands on the site of the public toilet. So this was knocked down to create the public toilet. Bottles and barrels down here. Not too sure whereabouts this picture was taken. I almost like to think that it was sort of here and the barrels were up on these shelves up behind, and then they would obviously decant what was in the barrels into the bottles. The mystery chamber we will go down to. That is 45 concrete steps all the way down to the bottom to go down there, which we'll go to right down here. Whereabouts we are in the cave. So we've come in here behind the war memorial. We've come in, we've had a first little talk here. We've gone down the 19th century Victorian wine vault, Naughty Boys entrance just here, and then we've returned back and we are here. Just behind me, protected by a metal plate, is a well shaft, which is what we're going to go all the way to the bottom of. You'll be able to see the bottom of that well shaft. We're going to go through the vintage port gallery to go and see two other well shafts down the end, which have partly been filled up. Picture bottom left is Sainsbury's car park. When they were creating Sainsbury's car park, they broke through and found this tunnel system area that had been dug out. The bricks weren't overly old. They were 1960s, late 1950s, 1960s bricks. However, what was interesting was the paintings that had been done down there. People had obviously spent some time. Unfortunately, Mr. Sainsbury's wanted his car park more than he wanted to keep that as a display, and it's now filled with concrete. This is glauconite, or green sand, showing the mineral glauconite under a microscope, so you can now see how it all locks together a little bit like a jigsaw. Very, very strong. This picture is basically where we are as far as Dorking is, the River Mole, Leith Hill, Rammore, Box Hill, etc., etc. And then further along it just shows bedding of the sand. Now, if you look up at that wall at the far side where it's been dug out and flattened as a face, can you actually see that it's been, the layers go from high on the left, low on the right. Now, I'm told by experts, one of which I am not, that meant that the tide, when Dorking was underneath the sea, used to go from the Reigate direction towards Guildford because of the dips showing in like a westerly manner. So that actually shows which way the... and I suppose it used to be it'd be a lovely thought to have a beach in Dorking.
Yeah.
Probably never happen again. So follow me along over this metal. No one's fallen through it yet. And what we're going to pass here on the right is the original entrance into the caves. So this was the original one that was dug, that would have come down. And we believe that everything to the left, because you're going through that large well shaft, everything to the left was then added to. The original one would have just come down these steps and it would have come into this area where we are now. And one of the things to note about this area is the shape of it and the fact that over to the left hand side you've got almost like a bench seat that has been carved, which you will recognise when we go down to the mystery chamber right at the bottom. So this possibly is the first thing that was dug, and then it was extended. Folks, just beware of the height of the ceiling just along here, because it does get a little bit low. So you'll probably now recognise the Naughty Boys entrance up there. So we've just come round in a big square, effectively. So I'm standing in one well shaft, and you've got another well shaft over there, which is filled up to, I don't know what, 2 foot, just below the surface. One of the questions and one of the mysteries of the caves down here is, why have we got 2 well shafts so close to each other? 2 theories really. One is, did they start to dig one and they've hit maybe something hard, a bed of rock or something like that, some cast stone, ironstone, and abandoned it and decided to dig another one, or has there been a neighbourly dispute? You're not using my well, dig one of your own. It would have been a really hard work. And actually, the nice thing is, when we look up into these well shafts, it almost shows you the life of a well digger. Very, very well formed. But what you've got either side, when you look up there, is these holes that have been created. And when you look up further, they form almost like a circle going up directly opposite each other. And these are called putlocks or put logs, because weirdly they used to put logs across them. And it was a very early and simple form of a spiral staircase to be able to get out. The dark marks that you can see within the putlocks, and also on the wall behind me in this little alcove, and behind you there on the wall, is the lighting that they had down here. It was rushes or reed light soaked in oil and lit. So when they were digging the wells, they would have naked flames. Not allowed these days, clearly, before health and safety, because if you were digging down, and the life of a well digger was you probably lower down on a rope with a bucket and a spade, keep going until you hit water. Good luck, see you in a week. But if you hit a pocket of gas with your naked flame, you're probably going to be coming out of that hole a lot quicker than you went down. So not a great job. On this table here, we've got some other items that have been found down here. Generally speaking, more examples of this 1760 hand-blown bottles. Lots of 18th and probably early 19th century crockery, quite mass produced most of it, apart from this piece of china here. Now this is, or was, very, very good quality china from China. Whoever ordered this originally would have paid an awful lot of money for this, and it would have been ordered from China, it would have been painted out there, and then it would have been shipped over many weeks, maybe months, over here as a set. And the question is, why have we got really, really good quality china from China down here in the caves of Dorking? And I might be able to give you an idea of possibly why we think that is when we get down to the mystery chamber at the bottom. So we're going to head back now to the top of the staircase.
Is that bone?
Sorry?
Is that bone?
Yeah.
Animal.
We're only thinking it's animal.
Animal.
It's never been tested,
Yeah.
but we're hoping it's animal. A scenes of crimes officer has never done the tour, I don't think. Do you see our pet rat down here? There's one more downstairs, and there's a bat as well. On the bins down there, you can actually see the names of some of the Sandeman's.
Oh, really?
Is on one of the bins.
Oh, very well. So much writing to look at. It's just so interesting, isn't it? Just to sort of like see.
It's just tons,
I know, it's just
and it's just. The more you come down here, the more queries you've got with the
Do you
place.
still
'Cause that-
see new things all the time when you're here?
Well,
Do you know what I
one
mean?
of the
Like,
things
you know,
is,
yeah, like-
just where you're standing,
Yeah.
there's a metal plate protecting the well shaft.
Yeah.
When you look up, it's
Yeah.
not in line,
It's a little bit off, isn't it?
it's off. So, again, why is that? Folks, we're going to go downstairs. Hang on to the handrail on your left. It's actually, normally it's quite wet because it's got condensation on it, but hang on to the rail on your left hand side. Leave a little bit of a gap between you, just in case we get a trip or anything like that, because we don't want that domino effect, because I'm at the bottom. So hang on to the handrail. Have a look at the old stairs that go down on your left hand side, and without a tin tray, we won't be using those today. We'll be using these nice concrete ones. So take your time. We're going to stop part way down to have a look at some dates and some names and another view of this well shaft. Have you been to Reigate Caves? No? Reigate Caves are another good one to go to. Different sand though.
I was going to say
Right.
they've got the same vaults, haven't they? In there? Or
They've
the
got-
bins,
so that's-
sorry.
They have got some bins.
Yeah.
That was used a little bit more. This was never used during the war. For
I was going to ask you, was this ever used as an air raid shelter?
no,
from memory?
because it's too wet.
No. Yeah.
We come down here sometimes and it's actually dripping.
Because the
wet.
Reigate ones are on the same level, aren't they? In the
They
tunnel?
are. They're
You're not really
underneath-
going underground.
they're
You're
underneath the
but
castle.
yeah, by the tunnel. But-
And that's silver sand, and that was dug specifically to go up to London to make glass,
right, yeah.
and sold locally to pub owners who used to put it on the wooden floors of their pub because it used to soak up the blood and the vomit. Great,
Details.
great profession. And it also, when they swept it out at night, it used to clean the floors. So it was a great commodity in Reigate. Down here you can see what we think is probably rope marks where they've dragged either bags or sacks or you know, containers of sand up the stairs. As we go further down, you will notice that the amount of names and graffiti and dates increases. As you go down this flight, there's a little bit of a gap on the left-hand side, so just be careful as you walk down. And we're going to stop part way down, just at the bottom of this staircase. So we'll stop here. So this again is that big well shaft that was covered in with the metal plate. And when you look up inside this one, obviously it's got a brick cap that's been placed on, and then above that, I'm presuming, is the metal plate to protect the well shaft. Strangely, I don't know whether at some point someone's bricked up this part of it, but we will be going, when we get to the bottom, we will see the bottom of this well shaft. And we stop on here for a couple of reasons. One is, do you remember the name that I said that was on the war memorial?
Young.
HH.
Oh, look at that.
So we've got H.H. Young down here, which we believe is father and son. Father down here, son on the war memorial. The story is that the son was killed in the Battle of Ypres, and the story that surrounds him is the fact that a German soldier, a young German soldier, found him still alive at the time but dying, and the English soldier asked him would he let his mother know that he died and that he wasn't on his own when he died. And the German soldier spoke to his mother, who I understand then contacted the English soldier's mother and just let him know, your son died on the Battle of Ypres, and my son was with him when he died. So that's the story around that name. Some of the, keep calling it graffiti, you can't really call it anything else, is quite ornate, and people clearly used to spend quite a lot of time down here with candles, because it's prior to anything else, just carving out their names. The oldest, are you good at history? What do you like at history? The oldest date in here is this one here, 1666.
Wow.
The date of the Great Fire of London. We have some great answers. Well, groups of cubs and guides and that sort of thing. You say 1666. We all know is the date of, and we get Battle of Hastings, similar, 1066. England won the World Cup. No, 1666. There's a slightly newer date inside the well shaft up there, which you can probably see. I struggle to see it with even a decent torchlight, which is 1672, which many people believe is a bit more believable than that one. But 1672, 1666. Now, the theory with the link of 1666 and the Great Fire of London is that people used to say, right, these were dug because they needed the sand to rebuild London. Very good commodity. Green sand is a good building material. However, people weren't digging down here to get sand to take all the way up, to take up to London, when you've only got to go round the town and you can see where like Wickes and Lidl's are. Behind them is most great big open sand quarries. They're not going to dig down here. So that theory is a little bit out of it. When you go downstairs, you will notice you are in a circular chamber with a bench seat round it and a curved roof. People said, was that used as a bit of a jail? Was it used as a secret meeting place? Did they used to have secret meetings down there? And the reason that they used to say that was because around the mid 1600s, religion, some parts of religion were very much kept underground. There was a group called the Fifth Monarchists who we know had a little bit of a base in Dorking. Some of their members used to live in Dorking. And people have surmised that it may have been a secret meeting place, and this was dug to give them this meeting, almost like a chapter house down here. This was not secret. The amount of sand that was coming out of here was not a secret. This isn't the Great Escape. People weren't walking down Dorking High Street shaking sand out their trouser legs. Everybody knew this was being dug, so maybe not. However, there's another symbol that is repeated throughout the caves 3 or 4 times, which is this symbol here. It's an I, an X and a P. In the mid 1600s, the letter I also represented the letter J. They were written exactly the same. This is called an exploded Chiro symbol, which means Jesus Christ the King. And that then gave us links with possible secret religious meetings and people coming down here to have secret meetings. An expert on these sort of symbols looked at some photographs of the Dorking tunnels, and he was the one that identified, yes, that is what's called an exploded Chiro symbol. It means Jesus Christ the King. He was then given a lot of photographs of all of the other graffiti around here, and he said, okay, it could mean Ian loves Pat. So it almost blew that theory a little bit out of the water. But it's a good link, and again, it's a bit of a mystery, which is what we quite like down here. So, folks, wander down the bottom, see if you can find our rat. Oh, I should tell you about our bat, didn't I? It's a specialist bat called Batus plasticus, very similar to the rat that's down there. But weirdly, we don't get any wildlife down here at all. We get nothing because I don't think there's anything to feed on.
Right.
So we don't get spiders, we don't get hardly anything at all. So go on down. As you're going down, when you look to the right into the well shaft, have a look at the colour of the wall and see what you think about the coloration of the wall down there. So go on down.
God, man, I'm just going to quickly...
Did you see the other eye? IXP, or is up there, and that's quite deeply carved in there.
A lot of the writing's really clear, actually, isn't it?
It is, and it quite
actually
clearly,
really clear, yeah.
Someone obviously used to spend a lot of time down here.
It's testament to the fact that nothing seems to have overlapped. Does
No.
that make sense? That's what's really interesting. You see the writing, which sort of actually, like, you see other places, and a lot of it just gets overwritten or it gets
Yes.
scrubbed out. But actually, all the writing's actually really clearly spaced out.
Yes.
I don't think I've ever seen it this clear before. Like, you know what I mean, the actual, just the writing. But
And
also,
certainly that wall up there and the one on the right hand side there.
it's remarkable.
Right, let me come this end. Go into the mystery chamber. Ladies and gents. So we're now at the lowest part. You're probably the lowest you can go in Dorking. Certainly the lowest you can go in Dorking. Did you notice the colour of the wall of the well shaft? And people say, "Oh, you've had your tour guide's Christmas barbecue down here." Actually, when you follow that black line all the way round, it continues along the walls, up the front of the bench seat, and actually above the bench seat. That is rust. That is rust caused by water being in here for quite some time, and the limonite, the ironstone within the sand, has reacted with the water, and it's left, if you like, a tide mark or a rust mark all the way around. So the question is, was this dug whilst it was underwater, when the water table was a lot higher, or was it dug and then it flooded? Probably the latter. It may well be. My thoughts are they've dug this, they've then broken through into the well shaft, and the well shaft has flooded it through, and then it has created this.
That's far more prominent coloration on that side in comparison to
I was going to say, clearly, like, there's a connection with water for them here. Do you know what I mean, sort of thing?
So, when we went across the top of the stairs initially, and I said this is probably the original entrance, comes down from the steps, and then it would have gone right into a very similar room to this. There was a bit of a bench seat there.
Yeah.
When you're talking about, and I'll talk about the owner of Butterhill House, who we believe the entrance would have been behind the cottages originally in South Street, but the entrance would have been within his garden. It is documented that he created a folly. Now, that was back in the times when people finished their education and their parents would send them off to Italy, France, Rome, to have a look over there, and people came back with these fanciful ideas. Oh my God, we saw this beautiful bridge and a fountain and a grotto, and people were creating follies for no purpose other than, look at this, look how fantastic. Now, one of the things that people used to really like, if you go to Paynes Hill Park at Cobham, it's fantastic over there because they've got every type of folly. They've got
like grottos and everything.
Towers, waters, fountain, everything.
You've got Broadwood's just up the road, haven't you? Really, up at Box Hill, haven't you?
Yes.
Broadwood's Tower, is that right? Isn't it? And we were talking, literally, as we were driving up here. They're called Lovelace bridges.
Yes.
Yeah, which is also like not necessarily. Well, I don't know if they're follies, but they're definitely.
Which run all the way through the sort of top of Ranmore over towards East Horsley. Behind Wootton House, if you go up to Wootton House, the home of the Evelyn family, he's got a terrapin viewing tower behind the hotel. A complete folly. So, the thing with follies is that people always used to aim to have some form of water feature. A folly, I think they believed, wasn't a folly unless you had some form of water. So, did he dig down, create that first room, and think, this is good, but could it be better? Could I get something with water? And he's continued to dig down, created this, and then flooded it. There's lots of local stories about people coming down here. There's a particular story, there's a couple of books that are linked with Dorking Caves. There's a story about a lady come down here with a candle and describes the cobwebby steps and blah, 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 blah. And she got down to here and she describes a crystalline pool down here with the remains of a boat on the far side. Now, she's up the steps, up here, with a candle pitch black in there, although there's water at this height where you can see where the staining was. Our theory, it wasn't a boat, it was possibly, well, our theory is there's a good possibility that when they finished with the well, what you normally have over a well, you have a roof to stop anything falling in. When they finished using the well, they thought, what are we going to do with this roof? We'll chuck it down the well. And it's somehow come down, floated over, and she's seen like a pointed part, which she's taken to be a boat. We then have stories locally, and people say these when they come on these tours. Oh yeah, I did hear there were 2 lads that came down here with canoes and they tried to see how far this river went. And there was, oh yes, isn't it a smuggling route? Wasn't this linked with Betchworth Castle? And yeah, whatever. Yeah, they're great theories, and that's why this is the mystery chamber. However, the story with the chap that was in Butterhill House goes that he spent so much of his money on creating a folly that he ended up in Dorking Poorhouse. And the Dorking Poorhouse was, when we were right up the top by the War Memorial, when we looked across at Waitrose, on the opposite corner to Waitrose was Seymour's, the estate agents. That was the building where the Dorking Poorhouse was. So he ended up literally being sent across the road. Poor bloke. I just personally hope that having created this, he had enough time to use it. And did he used to have dinner parties down here and use good quality china from China? Is that the link with that? I'd just love to think that. And one more thing is we had a group of cubs down here, and we were talking about mystery chamber. Any ideas what it was used for? Because we don't know. And this one lad, he just piped up with, "Oh, my mum baths in Epsom salts." And I'm thinking, well, okay, where's this going? And he said, "Do you think that because there was a lot of iron in the water, people used to think if they came down here and sat in the water, it would be good for them?" Which was a really, really good.
Yeah.
One's at Kimber, the Turkish Bowls. We were in Kimber in Staffordshire, and they had a folly that was sandstone, and it was very similar to this, but they used it. The folly was a Turkish baths that he'd given to his daughter for an 18th birthday present.
And they redirected the string.
And he literally, it didn't look similar to this because it was all on one level, but he carved it into, but you had ledges, and what he'd done is recoursed the water, hadn't he? So the water, he literally purposely diverted the water and converted it into a Turkish bath folly.
Wow.
Which was really interesting. So yeah, I might send you a link to the video for that. And you can look for it,
I mean that
we
was great.
Because what we did was we superimposed the original photo. Cause there was actually an old photo of it. We actually superimposed it onto what we were looking at, what the state of it is now, which isn't anything.
Wow.
But it was literally because when you spoke about that, I was thinking that's so interesting because we've seen a folly like that, where he purposely even diverted the water to make it so they could just sit in it. It steamed up, and they had a couple of different rooms, didn't they? So one room was to obviously have the Turkish bath steam, but it's for his daughter's 18th. So yeah, there you go. Sorry.
Which actually makes you think, doesn't it? You know, he's created this and thought, right, I've got water there.
Yeah.
Or, you know, I believe there's water there. I'm going to break through there, and this will flood.
Because we're not saying it's similar, but it's interesting how that folly is very, you know what I mean, reminiscent.
Yeah.
And the fact that he purposely built, he'd even gone to detail of redirecting the water course. So he could just sit, his daughter and that, like, have parties or whatever. And just,
I think it was 1935. It's actually documented in the Dorking Advertiser that a local councillor came down here to do an inspection and a visit and accidentally fell in the water. So that we know in 35 there was water in here,
Definitely
but obviously the water table has since dropped. Folks, thank you ever so much for coming down. I need a favour because this is the last tour, the only tour of the day. Can you blow the candles out? And I know it's not a birthday tour, but I have to take them back up with me.
Take some photos.
I was going to say, do you want to take a couple of pictures before we blow them out?
There's the rat. There's the rat. Yeah. usual fun. Should have got nice and light on there. The original stairs are, well, just shows the erosion, doesn't it?
Yeah, perfect. You can see the smog from the candles. Quite cool, isn't it? It's like an eerie mist. Look at that, look. We sort of see the mist of where the candles have been.
When we do the open days, and we've had 2 tours in the morning and 2 in the afternoon, obviously the amount of people that come down there raises the temperature. And
Yeah.
by the last tour, it's number 2. Basically,
It's a very distinct smell, isn't it?
Leave your hat in the
Okay, perfect, thank you. Well, everybody, thank you so much to Jean and Griff for kindly showing us around. This is so interesting, isn't it? Just amazing, isn't it? Yeah, brilliant. Thank you so much to both of you for obviously having a really beautiful tour for us. And
You're very welcome.
that's really kind, thank you. Sophie, all happy?
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Gents?
Good.
You saw the rats and the bats, which is brilliant.
Yeah.
And then, you good work, mate.
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah, it's a really good place. Yeah.
Thank you, guys. Thank you so much. And feel free to book a visit when they're out. This is your last one for this year, isn't it?
Yeah.
So obviously, when you come out, feel free to book. We'll put a link down below anyway for everybody to check it out. And thank you, guys.
Cool.
See you later, everybody. Bye.
Right.